We are the pure sound of acoustic anarchy. 665.66 UHMR Chemrat Radio, coming to you live tonight from Bexy's Flackenjack.
I gotta say, Bexy really has taken it up a notch. With all of these new picture screens, it lets me keep an eye on Murderball and my prize fights.
Well, I'm gonna tell you guys, nothing beats blood on the mats quite like blood on Catwalk.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
As always, I'm your neon splattered plasma fiend, the pirate captain of these Vox Waves, Goblin King, joined today by a crew of meandering marauders, all the way from Up Hive, the Ayatollah of Ice, Ickbard. Tell me, my man, how are the glacial marauders doing this year?
I don't know about the Marauders, but I can tell you about the Marauders. The Marauders.
The Marauders.
The Marauders. They're on segways. It's amazing. It's just got to sneak a Paul Blart reference in there. The
Arbites on segways. Got it.
Oh God, yes. Can we have that, please? Please, GW, bring back the fast attack detachment. And anywho,
God. New agents of Imperium.
The Marauders.
Yeah,
the Marauders are doing terribly, but hey, I need to offset some losses in some ways, and well, you need to lose to win. You know what I mean? It's like when you divorce your old wife for a new wife.
Got it. So they're in tax write-off right now?
No. It's their contracts. Their contracts are way too expensive. So I'm whatever the 40k equivalent of Tanya Harding up in this bitch.
Well, now you have to come up with whoever that is in the hive because you've said it.
You gotta give him a name and a backstory.
I'm trying to think of, like, you know how people say we need to say particles
into a corner.
I gotta say particles like a Greek hero, like Particles. I gotta think of like a Tyonica Hardinger.
Hey, there you go, Tyonica Hardinger. That is 100% a Warhammer Black Library name. I'm pretty sure that's an Ultramarine right there.
Tyonica Hardinger with her force lead pipe.
And the forerunner of the Frosthollow, forever singing the praises of the autocannon, it's Minion.
Oh, how they sing to me! Sing to the sing! Had to include the bullet farmer quote, a la Mad Max Fury Road.
I love it, man.
What key do your autocannon sing in?
F. No. For full
Big
fucking
booms.
auto.
Boom, 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 boom. Yeah. It's like drum and bass. It's just the bass. Boom, boom, boom.
Did you see the Peacemaker I made for my orcs, by the way?
No, I've not.
I did not.
I will send you a picture. Anyway, yeah, not to tangent too
I
well.
want it. Show me the pictures.
Well, folks, welcome to Under the Hive of Madness, episode 121, How the Mighty Fall. Tonight, I'm joined by two special guests who will help me take a deeper look at the 4 primary Daemon Primarchs, all of whom have earned their ascension before the Siege of Terra begins. But before we jump into the episode in proper, I want to let you guys know we've got a Patreon. And if you're interested in supporting us, helping the show grow, helping us get some new audio equipment, helping us just bring our level up little by little every month, plus, snagging some pretty cool merchandise when we do our merch giveaways, you can head over right now and pick up a legacy tier at $3, $6, or $9. If the legacy tiers are out, there will be tiers at $5, $10, and $15 that you can join. But you not only get some exclusive content, at this point, we are on Patreon exclusive episode 17, plus going back, I think, to episode 28 or 29 of the podcast. We used to do an extra hour, 45 minutes to an hour of extra content before the podcast. We just didn't do them as separate episodes. So there's quite a bit of extra content out there. There's also video episodes. Plus, as I mentioned, you can get your name into a monthly merch drawing. There are some role-playing assets that we're working on and some other stuff that's over there. Really go on over, check it out. If you're down and you want to hang, then think about throwing us some bucks on Patreon. To get into the episode, while the Emperor's Imperial Truth had sought to deny the existence of demons in the warp, by the time events kicked off towards the Heresy, as chronicled in the book Horus Rising, it wouldn't be long before the cat, so to speak, was out of the bag. And if you guys remember, so the book Horus Rising obviously takes place before Horus falls. It essentially takes place right before he's named War Master after the Battle of Eleanor, which is really kind of like the linchpin event which leads into the heresy. It's the downhill, everything's downhill for there. But the book starts with the quote, "I was there the day Horus slew the Emperor." And it essentially, the first book, in the J.R.R. Tolkien side, because it's one book, but the first chunk of the book itself deals with the fact that Loken and some of his guys go out and they encounter a demon. They encounter it. I think it's called like the Singing Demon. It's in the mountains. And it's the first time any Astartes has ever seen a demon, and they kind of like flip out. But it very much is that like the blindfold, the bandage is ripped off, but they don't have language for it. They have no concept of what it is. And it just kind of lasts as this like malignant thing in the back of your head. And it really is kind of that like first little crack in the Imperium that leads to all this stuff that we're going to talk about today, essentially. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there.
Samos.
Mhm.
That's the demon's name.
That's his name. And
Yeah.
Euphrates Keeler gets that picture and then becomes a prophet, because that's what happens. You take a photo of something you don't know and then you become religious. Euphrates Keeler is a cool
I
character.
think that's how L. Ron Hubbard did it.
That's exactly how L. Ron Hubbard did it.
Are you saying that Euphrates Keeler wrote Dianetics in the 31st millennia or the 30th millennium? Ick, is that
No,
what you just said?
I'm not saying it didn't happen.
I mean, I guess technically Logar wrote Dianetics, right? Because he wrote the Leviticus Divinitus.
Who's our Tom Cruise in this allegory?
I'm not.
Little Horus or Abaddon?
Do not sully the name of Abaddon with that. He's
say
obviously
Little Horus.
David Miscavige.
Yeah. He's taking up the mantle.
He becomes the new Hubbard.
Is John Travolta Little Horus?
Oh.
Listeners, if you're a Scientologist, email us at underthehiveofmadness@gmail.com and let me know, because like I talk a lot of shit about Scientology.
Leave one blank paragraph telling us that you're safe, 2 blank paragraphs to tell us that you're being watched as you type that.
And by the way, if you are a Scientologist, just for you, we have a special Patreon level. It's only $50,000 a year.
It raises your theta levels.
Yeah,
please.
We'll help you get clear of something.
We're gonna help you from your evil god Pazuzu or whatever the fuck they're called. Pazuzu's from the movie The Exorcist,
Xenu,
right?
what are you talking about?
Xenu, yeah.
Pazuzu's from The Exorcist 2.
You can totally help Ryan buy me a new mic.
Yeah. See how it works? It's all cyclical.
Yeah.
I mean, we can get you into an expert session with Minion, who will help you eliminate Thetans.
Yep.
Listen. It's all cyclical. Jesus sent the nuke to the volcano. You give us money for new microphones.
Exactly.
It's like poetry. It rhymes.
Is this how I start my cult? Am I entering my L. Ron Hubbard years? How much does a boat cost?
I was about to ask you, do you have your boating license?
Naval uniforms also cost a lot, Ryan. You gotta get your Sea Org up.
I mean, and of course, convincing people to like work for free on my boats. That's also expensive.
That's not hard. They're paying $10,000 to be yelled at like for a weekend. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of Scientology.
Speaking of quack religions and mysterious runes, how about that Magnus the Red?
Right? Let's jump right into Magnus the Red.
Also known as the L. Ron Hubbard of Warhammer 40k.
I think I just made I angered at least 25% of Chaos players with one dumb joke. So Magnus the Red, who would eventually become the Daemon Primarch of Tzeentch, is where we're going to start. Magnus has probably received the most direct coverage throughout our podcast to date. And we also have a very clear and direct account of the events that led to his apotheosis, I love that word, by the way, to the status of Demon Prince. And it all started with the Council of Nicaea, which led to the Edicts of Nicaea, and the legions were essentially ordered to disband their librarius departments. And this is kind of, in my opinion, a dick move, because you take all of these guys who are like captains and you're like, you're a line infantryman again. Give up all of your specialized equipment. Here's a bolter. Don't use your psychic powers. So these are guys who are in command positions who are essentially busted all the way down because of some guys keeping too many books. This would widely just kind of go off as a mixed bag. I don't want to say it was a bad decision, because it definitely wasn't. It was just kind of a mixed bag. Some of the Primarchs willingly and zealously undertook this command. For instance, Dorn, who locks away all of the Imperial Fist librarians. Like, he doesn't bust them down. He locks them into a room on the Phalanx and says, meditate about your mistakes. And they're there for a couple of years until he's like, oh shit, they're a demon on my ship. Come help me. We'll get into that story later. And then
Poor
there are
Mercedes.
those... What's up?
Poor Mercedes.
Yeah.
And then there's those Primarchs that kind of went through the motions and listened, but didn't really listen that closely, and continued to operate with their librarius in secret. Two examples of this are the White Scars and the Space Wolves, who pretty much just completely ignored the edicts, because in both cases, they were like, our powers aren't warp sorcery. Very famously, the Space Wolves still say that. It's rune magic. It's totally different. And the White Scars had wind magic, so...
Yeah.
Frankly, it's dwarf appropriation, and I will not stand for it.
Ryan, I want to add here.
Yeah.
I believe the book Prospero Burns covers it, but Magnus had already kind of made deals with the powers of the warp to protect his sons from the flesh change that his lineage was experiencing.
Yeah.
But the Council of Nicaea was the straw that broke the camel's back. Like, that was what pissed him off the most. And of course, eventually Prospero burning with the help of the Space Wolves. But it was...
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely the most important thing in their story.
Yeah. Up until a certain point, Magnus doesn't realize that he's dealing with the Dark God. None of them do.
Yeah.
None of them do.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. He was... Essentially, there were some back alley knowledge deals happening. Hey kid, do you want to buy some knowledge? It's like the guy from Resident Evil 4 with a trench coat full of weapons, but it's just a bunch of books.
What are you buying?
It's just a two-headed bird, yeah, with a trench
coat with a bunch of books.
If I feed it little crackers, it'll give me warp spice.
Do you want to buy some knowledge?
Yeah,
there's a conversion. Somebody make that. Let's
chop.
But then the Luna Wolves, soon to become the Sons of Horus, here pretty quickly. They appeared to follow the letter of the law, but not the spirit of the law. For instance, they had the warrior lodges that were kind of doing their own thing in the background. And then we had legions like the Thousand Sons and Word Bearers who legitimately didn't listen. They didn't make excuses. They just kept doing everything they had been doing, but in secret. So, mixed bag. Tried to bring up examples that didn't make it seem quite so clear cut, but like Perturabo also and Mortarion also didn't really like librarians, so they were kind of on the Dorn level of reaction. It was, it wasn't all... There's nothing that happens at the Council of Nicaea that immediately shows you who Chaos and who Loyalists are. It's a very gray area time. For instance, the White Scars were assumed to be following the Sons of Horus at a certain point, because they were just like, fuck you, we're going to make our own empire with hookers and blow. If you don't, we don't want to listen to your rules. It took some other events to change that. But.
Yeah.
So after the Council of Nicaea, Magnus, being Magnus and not listening, is peering into the warp, and he sees everything happening on Davin. And he finds out exactly what's coming from Horus. And he goes, oh shit, I need to tell my dad. So he brute forces his way past the Emperor's protective measures around the Webway and the Golden Throne to deliver a warning directly to Terra. And as Minion just brought up, the knowledge of this is imparted to him by Tzeentch. Tzeentch is the one who lets him into that conversation specifically to make this happen. Like, all of this is plans within plans, wheels within wheels are happening here. This action floods the Imperial Palace with a mini demon incursion, and it really pisses off the Emperor. So much so that he pretty much ignores everything Magnus says. So Magnus goes through all of this effort to break in, and the Emperor is like, fuck you, I don't care.
Yeah, I think the Emperor, or it's quoted as the Emperor wept when he saw and recognized his son Magnus breaking through into the throne room.
And it lets all these demons in, and the custodes have to stop mopping and start fighting.
Yeah.
The Sisters of Silence like, I could do something finally?
Oh shit, we have a job?
Man, I didn't know this existed, but I'm so grateful I was here at this time.
And then the counter attack goes into the webway, and then the Emperor closes the gates, and there are legitimately just custodes and Sisters of Silence that are stuck behind those gates that die horribly.
And didn't he send one named custodian who was his like favorite custodian, who was basically being chased by Drachni, the anathema of the Emperor, before he gets like killed and turned into a sword?
Yeah, there's all sorts of horrible. Yeah. That as we're covering the Horus Heresy, I'm realizing that there's important things in the Great Crusade that we never really talked about. But like,
it's almost like it's a convoluted timeline.
Yeah, or like time dilation's a bitch. But it's just one of those things where like we are definitely coming back. There's stuff we're coming back to. We've got 36 years of content. And by the time we've caught up with that content, we'll have 36 more.
We'll be on the 13th edition of Warhammer.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh my god. It'll only be Space Marines at that point. So in retaliation,
50,000 at that point. No, go ahead.
That's true. Maybe. In retaliation, the Emperor sends word to Leman Russ of the Space Wolves to capture Magnus and bring him and his legion back to Terra so they can be judged and punished. Very, very important thing here. However, Horus intercepts the message, and he hasn't revealed his heresy yet at Ishtvan. Ishtvan hasn't happened yet, but he intercepts this message and changes it just a little bit so that when Russ actually gets it, it's punish Magnus and his sons. So the Emperor, just to be clear, the Emperor said, arrest him. Horus changed it to wipe him out. But Magnus, knowing that Leman was on the way, resigns himself to await his punishment and not fight back. He had figured out at this point that everything that had happened in like the last 5 years, from the Council of Nicaea to modern times, had essentially been a plot by Tzeentch, and he refuses to be a pawn yet again in any plans of chaos. At this point, he knows what's coming and decides that 2 Space Marine legions duking it out to the death and killing themselves is going to hurt the Emperor. So he goes, I'm just going to willingly sacrifice myself and my entire legion. I will die so the Emperor can stay, my father can stay a little bit more powerful. And in order to ensure this, he casts a psychic barrier over all of Prospero so that not even his own Astartes warriors will see the coming attack. And obviously this leads to the fall of Prospero, with the Space Marines basically slaughtering the entire world. They burn the entire planet except for the capital city of Tizca. And here the Space Wolves are actually forced to assault the city itself, which has been protected by its own powerful psychic barrier that's being projected by the librarians of the Thousand Sons. And because they have to make this direct assault, now it becomes costly, and the Space Wolves start dying in numbers with the Thousand Sons. And these libraries are burning, and this knowledge is being lost, and these great works of art are being destroyed. And at this point, Magnus kind of sees the slaughter and destruction for itself. He sees it firsthand. It pisses him off. He changes his mind. And I think with only like 1,000 Sons left, he leads a counterattack against Russ and the Space Wolves. Magnus and Russ eventually meet in single combat. They're the first two. This is also the first time that Astartes have fought Astartes on like a grand scale. It's happened little here, little there, but this is the first time that 2 legions have fought each other directly. This is the first time that 2 Primarchs come into direct conflict.
It could be argued it's the first time it wasn't redacted.
Yes, that's kind of like, yeah. It's the first time it's happened on a scale large enough that it made it into the history books and it wasn't redacted. Very good point. Magnus strikes Russ so hard in the chest that it breaks his rib and punctures one of his hearts, not one of his lungs, one of his hearts. Then Leman lashes out and kicks Magnus in his single eye. At this point, while Magnus is blinded, Russ picks him up and drops him on his knee. I can't remember the wrestling name's move, but he back breaks him over his knee. suplexes him over his knee,
Something like
breaking his
that.
back. And as Magnus is lying there dying, he finally embraces the gifts of Tzeentch and goes through his apotheosis to become the first Demon Primarch. This allows him to save himself and his legion and all the knowledge that they had gathered. So everything that was in Tizca. And Tizca. I love these names, but sometimes I'm like, you have to say them out loud and they're not that fun. The entire city is transported to a demon world inside the Eye of Terror that Tzeentch has already prepared for it. And the Space Wolves are left bloodied and weakened, and they call out for the White Scars for aid. However, Jakatai chooses to ignore these pleas, as we covered just a couple of episodes ago, because at this point, Jakatai is like, I don't fucking know who to trust. I'm hearing two different stories. So I'm going to Prospero myself. I want to see what happened. And that's the fall of Magnus. I briefed over like 60 years, but those are the main beats.
There's an interesting thing someone brought up that we'll probably talk about a little bit more later. Was this isn't the last time Magnus is like around present. He goes and he talks to the Emperor and Vulcan. He sits with them and talks with them.
Yeah,
and there was still an opportunity for him to come back from that.
Yeah. Ick, this was actually your idea. It was a great idea. We want to, now that we've kind of laid out what happened, we want to kind of like peel back Magnus as he's written. How did his story kind of change? What doesn't make sense with him as the Primarch of the Thousand Sons? Like, what contradictory things exist in Magnus's story? And like, one of the really big things to realize here or to appreciate as you get into Horus Heresy and all this is we knew the beats. The beats were laid out. We kind of knew who the bad guys were going to be. We kind of knew what they were going to be. If you're part of our Patreon, you can see right now the first edition Magnus, the red model. Back when we knew he was a demon, we knew he was a bad guy. Or by second edition, we knew he was a bad guy. But he doesn't. That model looks nothing like current Magnus. I'll just say that right there.
Like blue Ganondorf in his beast form.
Yeah, with wings. Yeah. It's a pretty cool. I'm trying to find all of the original models because they're fucking cool as shit, but they're really hard to find.
Yeah.
Anyway, there are a lot of contradictions in this story. One of the big ones that they kind of like flowed with and worked around was that Magnus flip-flops a lot between, is he being deceived by Tzeentch or is he doing this stuff because he's megalomaniacal and thinks he needs all this power and knowledge? I don't know. What are you guys' takes? Like, having read some of the books and being familiar with the lore, what are the things about Magnus? Because there's that argument, Magnus did nothing wrong, but then you're also like, but Magnus is the first traitor. Like, he's the first demon Primarch. So, how do both sentences exist in the same world, I guess?
Ick, I don't know if you want to cover this one first. Go for it.
I was giving you the floor because I'm a yapping motherfucker, so I want to make sure you got some time
I'll
to
be
shine.
yapping too. But from everything I've read and seen, it was, from my perspective, Magnus, like the dwarves in Tolkien, they dug too deep and too greedily, and his quest was for knowledge rather for minerals and gold. So it's not that he did nothing wrong for his own actions to learn more, to better protect himself and his sons and his father's empire, but he delved with the wrong powers to do so.
It's like the folly of greed, essentially. Like, his greed was knowledge.
Yeah. So that's how I see it. I also love dwarves, but
Based.
That this is the podcast episode where everyone's a massive dwarf fan.
Oh, it's been every episode, baby. It's been every episode for me.
Yeah.
There you go.
When it comes to Magnus, in my opinion, there's an inconsistency, and this is the inconsistency. Wow. See, Ryan isn't the only one who can flub words. The inconsistency that I see in his character, and I believe this spans in between different books. You actually dispelled one of the inconsistencies I was thinking of, where he goes, I'm gonna lay down and die. I'm going to silence through various means, some lethal, the people who saw that this was coming and just roll over. And then, wait, no, fuck you, I'm gonna kill you now. But you pointed out, like, this was a personal thing that happened to him, the city, the stuff that I didn't know about.
A breaking point, essentially, yeah.
Yeah, like, you're really doing this after I gave this to you carte blanche? Okay, now the Dukes are on. That was one inconsistency, but I'm grateful that you're able to piece that part together. You might be able to piece these other parts together then. Ahriman then
Yeah.
making the deal to undo what was happening to the sorcerers who were going through these horrible mutations and such, turned into vacuum cleaners, self-contained vacuum cleaners, turned to dust. Basically, he watched his son be tricked like him, and you know what he immediately does? He tries to murder him after he sees what happens, even though he's doing exactly what his father was doing, essentially in this case. And it takes a direct divine, we could argue divine, intervention from Zinch himself to stop this from happening. Then we have, I forget, there was a passage in one of the books where, as Magnus then basically, after he's isolated himself, where Ahriman stood up to take care of this, Magnus has a dissenting opinion from one of the captains, I think, and he just outright kills him while they're trying to figure out everything. And then he gets to go to Terra and talk to the Emperor. Mind you, there's shards of him everywhere. There's some shards doing good things, there's shards doing bad things. So there's multiple Magni, for lack of a proper term here. But the main, the core Magnus, the one that we are witnessing through, who is the most whole of the sum, basically here. He goes to the Emperor and he's like, I need your help. I need you to save these people, save my people. He goes, we cannot save them beyond saving. He goes, I will not let you slay them. I will not let any of my sons die. No one will lay a hand on them. After he, killed them, tried to kill them, killed them some more out of anger and avarice. And then he looks to Vulcan, and Vulcan goes, I'd do the same thing, brother. I wouldn't sacrifice any of my guys, even though Magnus sacrificed plenty of his guys. And there's that discrepancy that really stuck with me, that Magnus has a really solid tragic backstory that we watch develop. And then we have different writers writing different books, putting different mindsets behind what they want him to be in that story element.
So part of it is that, in my opinion, and this very much is an opinion, this is why I have a podcast, because I have strong opinions. In my opinion, when they started writing the Horus Heresy, there was very much we have story beats because of the card game, we have story beats because of the artwork that's been laid down. As long as you get from point A to point B, we don't care what happens in the middle. And because of that, you kind of have this shotgun effect where everybody kind of like raced off in their own direction. And I really feel that, and I don't think this will be confirmed anytime soon, but I really feel that at a certain point, GW or the Black Library realized that Dan Abnett and Grav Thorpe and a couple of the other writers really were driving the sales, and they were like, okay, we need to stop, we need to come back, we need to have a world building Bible, and we need to actually deal with this the way that any like property is dealt with. So in creative writing, any of these large properties, a really good example, because it's just come up a lot recently, is Stranger Things. Stranger Things has a Montauk Bible. It is literally called the Montauk Bible. For those of you who don't know, there was an actual project called Project Montauk, which everything that happens in Stranger Things is based on. But they called their world building document the Montauk Bible. And I think that there was a point where they said, this is the Horus Heresy Bible. Here are the people that you need to run your stories by. Here are the cohesive moments that you need to stick to. However, the horses were out of the gate already. So I think after the horses were out of the gate and there was this moment of everybody needs to come back to the table, we need to talk about the Bible, we need to talk about the world building directly, they then had to kind of go back and start dealing with closing the loops and fixing the problems. And the way that they dealt with it was twofold. One, they have said that a lot of the contradictions in the Horus Heresy books come from the fact that the lore presented in the Horus Heresy are the personal experiences of the people involved in the war, as to where the lore presented in the codexes are the world building level lore. So you get a like, this is the primary source actual happens versus like third person source twice removed, if that makes any sense. So that's one of the ways they dealt with it. The other way they dealt with it was order of operations. And I think that's kind of addresses some of the stuff you're talking about. So the flesh change is happening, and Ahriman tries to make this deal to fix it after Magnus has realized that Zinch is trying to fuck with them. And okay. So let me lay out the stack order, the Magic the Gathering stack order. Magnus realizes, yeah, Magnus realizes that Tzeentch is fucking with them, and because of that, he locks all the libraries. He closes down Prospero. He closes down Tinska, and he says, "I'm waiting until Lehman gets here. When Lehman gets here, we'll talk." All right. So the next card in the stack is Ahriman goes, all of the shit that we did 10 years ago for the flesh change is coming undone. And it's coming undone because Tzeentch no longer has a direct line to Magnus. So Tzeentch is trying to get a direct line to somebody else. Tzeentch is trying to like poke the bear. So Tzeentch gets to Ahriman. Ahriman goes into a library he's specifically told not to go into and does something he's specifically told not to do. That pisses Magnus off or the next card, right? And then you get like kind of this other guy comes in and says this shit and gets killed. And the other really big thing to like take away from late Heresy, and Magnus falls so early Heresy that it never really gets talked about, is all of the Primarchs absolutely hate the Terran born of their legions. And that's where you're getting like, Magnus doesn't fucking care. This dude's being lippy to him and he's Terran born. He backhands him through a wall. I don't fucking care. You're not my real son. You're not from Prospero.
Yeah.
Like, does it? So yeah. And keep that one in mind as we move forward, because all of the Primarchs do that. Every single one of them.
Except Vulcan. He makes an entire honor born of them.
You're true. You're actually right. Vulcan and Dorn are much nicer too, although there could be a really big argument that the home world for the Imperial Fists is Terra. I think it's more the core worlds, period. Like the inner sanctum worlds, I think, are the Imperial Fists home world. But yeah, anyway.
I mean, they pulled from Necromunda for a reason.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And they pull from a bunch of different, like, isn't Idelica also in the core worlds? Or really close to the core worlds?
Sounds a little idyllic to me.
Right. So yeah, I think that's like a big thing to keep in mind. And anyway, not to like get super long-winded, but there's definitely a stack order of how things are happening in that. And
so the stack is, you're not my real kid.
Yes.
Then to, you went into the thing, the temple when you shouldn't have.
Yeah, you did the thing I told you not to do. Yeah.
The flesh change is bad, yo. It's being undone. To, man, this guy is crazy. That's a stack order. And for a certain amount of money a month, you could watch as Minion and I hand puppet the stack physically for Goblin King and as pantomime our hand beats to every emphasis of his syllable and consonant.
And if you help us on Patreon, we are going to buy Hooked on Phonics, because obviously we all need it. That still exists, right?
Yeah.
In our hearts. Everything exists with the Wayback Machine.
That's right.
Wayback Machine. If you guys want to dig into your own lore of Magnus, I highly suggest reading was it 1,000 Suns, and then directly after Burning of Prospero, it gets the 1,000 Suns perspective and Ahriman specifically, and then rolls right into the Space Wolves perspective on what they were going to do and how their orders changed. And then if you want even farther post-Heresy, look into, was it Black Legion and the Talon of Horus?
Planet of the Sorcerers. I can't remember what planet. I don't think the book's called Planet of the Sorcerers, but Planet of the book that deals in Planet of the Sorcerers is pretty good too.
Yeah, they're definitely all really good books.
Let's rank Primarchs by tragedy level. Magnus is my number 3 on tragedy level.
On tragedy? Okay.
Yeah. He's the third most tragic. He's not my number 1. He's getting my bronze tragedy medal.
I agree with him being third place. What about you, Minion?
Like Euphoria. Like he's on the Euphoria.
This is hard because I haven't delved too much into Angron or Mortarion's lore, even though I have like 9,000 points of death card.
It's not that hard.
I know, yeah.
Out of these four,
I would say Magnus is probably my silver. My second.
You think he's your second? Okay.
Yeah.
If we're run by only the 4 Chaos guys, my list is entirely different now.
Oh, Mortarion, we're going with the others.
Magnus wouldn't be your third most tragic? You've only got 4 to pick from. So who's Magnus in? Is he in your first, second, third, or fourth spot? We've got 1 second and 1 third.
I had 2 loyalists for my second and first. If we're going by the people we're only talking about today, then I got to change mine.
Who are you changing it to? That's what I'm asking you, man.
Ah, I don't like this
Think on their feet.
pressure. All right.
Think on your feet.
Okay.
Yes, and bitch. Yes, and.
Yes, and. I'll have Fulgrim as my fourth.
Wait, no. Where's Magnus? Don't tell us your
where's
fourth.
Magnus?
Yeah.
Magnus is second. Magnus is second.
Second. Okay. Now, speaking of Fulgrim.
I need to write this down real quick.
Fulgrim is the demon Primarch of Slaanesh. Fulgrim's fall was a bit subtler and started on the world of Laren, or 28-3, as it was the third world that the 28th Expeditionary Forces would bring into compliance, the 28th Expeditionary Force being led by the Emperor's Children, Fulgrim. Laren was a water world. As the planet's ice caps had all melted, the Lara were a sentient reptilian people and lived on floating coral islands. They basically had these massive gravity generators that had brought these like chunks of coral up into the air, and they floated above the water. They also completely refused to bend to the will of the Imperium. The Council of Terra had decided that the subjugation of the Lara would be too costly to offset any technology that they might have earned for their efforts, and they estimated that such a war would take around 10 standard years. In their mind, the world should be skipped, exterminated, or made into an imperial protectorate. That was what they said. They're like, look, these guys are probably a little bit too powerful for us to do it quickly, to preserve the technology that we want for them. Let's make them, their choice was Imperial Protectorate. Let's make them Imperial Protectorate. We can get some of their gravity technology. We can get some of their weapons technology, and we'll just deal with the fact that they're lizard people. Two things to take away from this. One, there was a time during the Great Crusade where they didn't murder all aliens. Two, this is what happened. Fulgrim and the Emperor's Children, however, were dedicated to the ideals of perfection, and perfection in the eyes of the Emperor. And Fulgrim ordered the eradication of the Lara to be committed within a single month. He was like, nope, we're badass. We can do it in a month. We're perfect. Unknown to any at the time, the Lara, as an entire culture, was dedicated to the chaos god of Slaanesh, making the entire world a dangerous source of corruption and coercion. The final battle on the planet took place with the Emperor's Children and their Primarch breaking into a great temple of Slaanesh. The rigidity of the Imperial truth, being as it was, had suggested that this was just sort of some profane and misguided dalliance, not a true threat, even as it began to unwittingly corrupt all of them. So their belief in the Emperor's Imperial truth, and I've gotten onto a soapbox about how the Imperial truth was actually pretty bad, and this is one of those examples. The Emperor knew that this shit existed, and he didn't tell anybody, which leads to things like this. They're like, yeah, gods are fake. Your temple's dumb. And then they're in the temple, and the temple's gods aren't fake, and the temple's literally corrupting them as they're standing there. As the last of the temple's defenders died, Fulgrim discovered that what they had been protecting. They had been fighting really fiercely to protect this place. Fulgrim finds out what it is. Embedded in a block of veined black marble was a tall silver sword that had a gentle curve, and a rough-cut amethyst gem set into its pommel. Unknown to him at the time, this was a powerful Slaanesh artifact, and it acted as a physical vessel for the greater demon of Slaanesh, or one of the greater demons of Slaanesh. Once Fulgrim had claimed the blade, the demon within it began to whisper in his mind while also corrupting his soul towards the service of Slaanesh. Soon, he was using the demon blade more often than his greatsword, Fireblade, which had been forged for him by Primarch Ferrus Manus. He came to believe, eventually, that the whispers in his mind were only his own subconscious that was speaking to him, kind of encouraging him to better himself. Fulgrim began to listen to it more and more often. By the time he discovered that it was actually the whispers of a demon that existed within inside the blade, it was kind of a little too late. This combined with the fact that Horus persuaded him that he had already been corrupted by the Ruinous Powers. Horus had been corrupted. The injury of Davin had already happened. And it was just like, hey, man, just give in. And eventually he did. He gave over to chaos. He found his particular patron in the Prince of Pleasure, who offered the Primarch a route to the ultimate perfection. So he carved for himself and his Astartes, free of all morality and dependence upon the pursuit of their ultimate self-obsession of perfection.
And they lived all happily ever after.
Yeah, right. Just like we did with Magnus, I want to take a look at Fulgrim and how he's written. And the first one, the only one I'm going to bring up before I turn it over to you guys, is at one point, the way Fulgrim was written was the demon actually totally possessed him and trapped him in the sword. And Fulgrim had to watch the demon power his body for a certain amount of time, which drove Fulgrim crazy. I'm almost positive that is no longer like core lore. That was one of those like, close that loop, shut it off. That never happened. But I very distinctly remember that being part of Fulgrim's story at one point.
Yeah.
I think that was a more interesting way of him falling. But yeah, anyway, I'm gonna turn it over to you guys. So yeah, just the same way. What are the contradictions? What are the things that don't make sense about Fulgrim's story, I guess?
Wasn't he trapped in a painting and Lorgar knew that he was in that painting and looked at it and went, "I'll see you later, brother." And that was what that was?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that happens
It was like
too. Yeah.
It was like a reference to, I forgot what was
Dorian Gray.
Yeah, Dorian Gray. It was a Dorian Gray reference in 40k. Very original.
I think you're right. He becomes obsessed with painting something so much to the point that he starts painting with his own blood and like feces and like viscera, and the demon traps him in the painting. But it maybe that's one of those things where it only happens for a couple of days, so it's part of the whispering. Like that's how it's kind of rounded up. But
I think it's after the Fulgrim book, which is number 5 in the Heresy, and then immediately after the Battle of Yavin, or sorry, not Yavin, that's Star Wars. Ispan 5 is when, when Fulgrim beheads Ferrus Manus, R.I.P., is when he realizes what he's done. He's been fueled by this demon, or his rage has been fueled by this demon, and he finally gives in. And then I think that book, and I think it changes immediately after, is when he's trapped, not in the sword, but in his own body while the demon controls it. I think there's a portion where Fulgrim is talking to Horus face to face, and Horus is kind of not on board or kind of perverse by what Fulgrim has become. He recognizes that it's not Fulgrim anymore. And on the Fulgrim side of that interaction, he's screaming at his own body to try to obey him, but the demon's in full control. And I think after that, it just kind of changes.
Yeah,
to like his soul trapped in other things.
Eventually, Horus does get Fulgrim to kind of like accept and bond with and become the Daemon Primarch. But yeah, there's definitely a lot. Yeah, that the Istvan 5 massacre. Fulgrim is probably the one in my mind that has the most contradictions in his fall. And like obviously we're talking about 4 Primarchs here, and we're trying to like sum up what happened, so we're not taking 14 hours to describe their backstories each. But yeah, Fulgrim has always kind of struck me as the one with the most contradictions, I guess. Did you have anything else to add, Ick?
I actually know this one the least, so I'm happy for you guys to carry weight on this one, make up for me on this.
Yeah.
So on the tragedy level, Fulgrim is my 4th spot.
Wow.
I feel that Fulgrim's story is really not that tragic. Like it's subtle. The way that he falls takes a long time and it's really subtle, but Fulgrim is also kind of like the most cocky asshole out of all of these guys.
100%. Yeah, he's the most arrogant of the bunch.
Yeah.
His entire quest for perfection, and him, his legion being the only one to bear the Emperor's eagle on their pauldrons was like their symbol of status. And actually, I want to say that I rank Fulgrim at my number 1.
You think he's the most tragic?
Only because I haven't delved too far into Angron and Mortarion. I don't know that much about him. As for backstory wise, but Fulgrim's book was the one that stuck with me the most when given my first like read through of the Horus Heresy. And first read through, I only stopped at like book 7 and then started over. I really enjoy, not really enjoy, but really like entertaining the idea of trapped in my own body and not being able to control it while a extra power or entity controls it, and I'm essentially trapped. And that's something that like The book goes very well in depth into his emotions during that time and how he feels and like the horror of that feeling and how it, I guess, it has to feel. So I'm losing my words, but like I really think that's horrific in the 40k universe for something like that to happen, and for something that Fulgrim didn't know what he was getting into. Right? He saw a very beautiful sword, probably the most beautiful he's ever seen, and he was in a temple that I think the book describes as when they walked in, all the lair were fornicating. PG word.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and like all the
they were
art is essentially, it's a very
yeah. They walked into a temple that had a very eerie, enthralling music and a sweet smell too, and that was the essential grab for Slanesh for all of the members of the Emperor's Children that were there, and their downfall.
I think the reason that I put him at number 4 is like in a very realistic way. Fulgrim is the dumb blonde who runs upstairs when the killer comes into the house.
100%, yeah. 100%.
That if we go to our horror movie tropes, I hear some of this stuff that you're saying. It's definitely a horror story. I also think, like, as much as I like the like death, sex, and rock and roll of the Emperor's Children, like as a concept, I don't really like the Emperor's Children. Like their attitudes in general bug me.
They had some really good stories in 30k, and they kind of fallen to the wayside in 40k.
Yeah, I feel that they should be an army in 40k, and I feel that like we need better noise marines, and the noise marines and how the noise marines became noise marines is fucking dope as shit. But like,
oh yeah, scary as hell.
As far as the like story kernel of what the Emperor's Children are, I really don't like them. I mean, like I like Raylanol, because
Rylanor.
yeah, Rylanor like survives for so fucking long on Ishvan 3 and is finally like, no, I'm gonna fuck you up. But like, as far as the Emperor's Children in general, that whole here's the thing. Lucius is an interesting character. The fact that the rest of the entire fucking Legion is just copy paste Lucius drives me nuts. I guess that's the real thing. Like,
you could say the musically talented faction are one note.
Yeah, a little bit.
I think the Emperor's I think the Emperor's Children and Fulgrim specifically had fallen into the bad side of multiple writers trying to change him over the course of many different books.
Yeah, I think he's the one with the most inconsistencies.
Yeah. But
it'll be interesting when we cover him as just a Primarch, when we get into like his past and get into his full story, because I think we'll be able to kind of the stack order we just did with Magnus. We'll be able to do the stack order with it's a shit fuck stack. So speaking of pounding things flat, next up
we're adults to pay taxes, ladies and gentlemen.
We have Angron, the Demon Primarch of Khorne. We're adults who pay I mean, we pay taxes. I think the adult part might be... Anyway, so Angron is the Primarch of the World Eaters, and his fall to chaos is probably, in my opinion, the most tragic. This is why I was asking you guys to rank everything, by the way. So he's in my number 1 spot. We touched on it a few times in the podcast up to this point, but basically it all comes down to the Butcher's Nails. Angron came from the world of Nuceria, where he was enslaved and forced to fight in its gladiatorial arenas. Along with the neural implants, this upbringing slowly saw his transformation into a brutalistic leader of a berserker legion. The Butcher's Nails are implants designed to stimulate aggression and suppress higher cognitive function. They do this by causing a constant, excruciating pain that is only relieved through the act of delivering violence. This relentless pain and drive for aggression makes the implanted individuals extremely effective in close combat, but often uncontrollable and prone to frenzied rages. The implants ultimately lead to significant mental and physical degradation over a given amount of time. In one of the more tragic moments of the Great Crusade, when the Emperor rediscovers Angron on Nuceria, the Primarch is put into a medical and psychic coma with the help of Malcador, so the Butcher's Nails can be studied. Archmagos, then Rodus...
Velcaridar, thank you.
spent 7 hours tracing how the implants had remapped Angron's brains. So it had actually gone in and like changed the structure of his brain. It was
has a
he who
smooth brain.
What's up?
He's now got a canonically smooth brain.
It was he who discovered the amount of damage and even gave an estimate for how long it would be until the Primarch died. The Emperor commanded that these findings be sealed, as the Warhound's Legion, who would later become the World Eaters, were one of the last legions to find their Primarch, and unlike all of the other Primarchs, Angron hadn't managed to conquer his planet. He did not overthrow Barbarous. He had tried,
Barbarous.
and he had failed.
New Syria.
They were beaten
Mortarion's
up.
Barbarous. He's New Syria.
Yeah.
You are right. He is New Syria. Mortarion is Barbarous. Thank you. Sorry.
You're welcome, buddy.
I've even said New Syria like 3 times.
And then you go, what happened to old Syria?
You know, this is like new metal.
It was one of those
in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, Angron is the new metal Primarch.
I just hear new metal go, what the fuck is up, Wendy's?
And I was literally thinking the what's the song with Jonathan Davis and Fred Durst? The break stuff song. It's just Angron.
I want to break stuff. Break stuff.
So the Warhounds
go for corn.
Were beaten up and on the edge, and the Emperor deemed the knowledge of Angron's approaching death to be too detrimental to the Legion's continuing morale. Later on, the Emperor would again put Angron into a medically induced coma, this time in the gene labs of Terra itself, and with the aid of techno-archaeologist Arkan Land, who had come across ancient records of a device very similar to the Butcher's Nails on Mars in his past, they discovered that Angron could no longer feel any emotion. The Butcher's Nails at that point had changed his brain to the path where the only emotion that he could get was pleasure in violence. And at this point, it wasn't even really pleasure. It was just respite from pain. In fact, it was a testament to the Primarch project that Angron was even still alive. Basically, the fact that he was a Primarch was the only way that the Butcher's Nails hadn't just completely burned out his brain. They'd just eaten him from alive. Land then suggested that there was a way to remove the Butcher's Nails, albeit at a considerable risk. So I would say, they don't really put it out there, but I would say he probably said, like, there's a 35% chance he'll die if we do this surgery. The Emperor agreed and even suggested that there were ways to mitigate some of that risk, but ultimately decided that it was too much for him to risk. And the reason the Emperor decided this was the nails had basically completely replaced entire sections of the Primarch's brain. They weren't damaged or changed. They had been completely rebuilt by the Butcher's Nails. And the Emperor kind of liked this awesome, violent tool and wanted to see how it would cook. Plus, Angron was still an incredibly effective leader of men in close combat. So it's this tragic moment in my mind because the Emperor goes, yeah, there's a way out of the dark. I'm not fucking taking it. This is my favorite violent toy. Why would I give up my favorite toy? Again. Yep. After returning to lead his legion from the front, Angron set about finding a way to get the Butcher's Nails into every one of his legionaries, even as they cut a bloody path across every battlefield that they came across. Apothecary Golan Sarlacc finally announced that he had found a way during the Gehenna Massacre, which we will actually be covering in detail in a later episode. A lot of what happens on Gehenna between Angron and Leman Russ, with more World Eaters getting Butcher's Nails, and the practice of collecting skulls. That's where that came from. It comes from Gehenna. The Emperor doesn't like it, but the Legion is also really, really effective. So it's kind of like, hey, knock that off. Go kill that world. Hey, don't do that again. Go kill that world. It's
quit pissing on the carpet.
Yeah, essentially. I really like the way that you guard the house. Stop chewing on the furniture. Jumping forward to Ishtvan 3, Angron is pretty easily persuaded to Horus's side, being that he is pretty much pissed off all of the goddamn time and lays most of that blame at the feet of the Emperor. Kind of justified, but Angron doesn't really know any of the justifications. He's just mad.
Yeah. And the neat part.
Throughout both Ishtvan 3 and Ishtvan 5, Angron continues to be a near unstoppable force of destruction. And then when he sets off to the Shadow Crusade and returns to Nuceria, an events that we'll actually cover in our next episode, Angron is fatally wounded during the battle. And In his last moments of desperation, Khorne intervenes. Angron is transformed into the demon prince that we know him as today and fully dedicates himself pretty damn quickly to Khorne. At that point, it's really one of those things where Angron is like, he's dying, and Khorne's like, hey, you're really good at killing stuff. And Angron's like, yeah, I'm really fucking good at killing stuff. And Khorne's like, want to kill more stuff? And Angron's like, fuck yeah. Like, like there's no debate. Like, Angron is just there. And
I've traveled this road. It's a good road to travel.
Right. I know this war. And that's the character he is. I know this war. I would rather choose the war I know than the path I don't know. And to me, that's why he's the most tragic one. But just like we've done with the last two, now we get to look at him from the angles of inconsistencies. And there are a lot with Angron because of the way that his character is written. However, because of the way that his character is written, most of the inconsistencies make sense, if that makes any sense. Like, he is consistently inconsistent.
It's a blind fury in an ever-changing situation.
Right.
I mean, it's a testament when they show in the Siege of Terra series when they're trying to get him ready to move him, and they're making deals with the acting first company captain of the Night Lords to send him to their super cool super jail. They have a routine down at this point to move him
to like
where he needs to go. Yeah, because of how crazy he is. So the only reason he started to stabilize narratively to me is because people were keeping a stagnant environment around him to keep things simple.
Or like on his ship, which I can't remember, the Conqueror. There's literally a unit of Space Marines and like naval personnel that run around behind him because Angron doesn't use doors. He rips a new hole in the side of the ship and jumps to the planet below, and they literally have to fix the hole. Yeah, that there are definitely things about the World Eaters in general that come off as inconsistent. One of the ones being Karn is both like this brilliant tactic. I guess here's the inconsistency to me. Karn is a pretty brilliant tactician, and he kind of knows what the butcher's nails are going to do, and he takes them anyway. And then he spends the majority of the Horus Heresy fighting the effect that they have on his brain. And that, I guess that's the inconsistent. Like, it doesn't make sense with your character that you decided to do this. But then again, maybe that's supposed to illustrate the blind loyalty that these guys have to their Primarch.
It could be also the fact that he, he's the first guy to survive Angron long enough to like actually get some respect.
Right.
And I think in a lot of ways, it's like a club. You are never allowed to club. Hey, actually, now you're kind of allowed in the club. But if you really want to join us, here's this one final step. You've done the hard part already. We'll take care of the rest.
Right.
That's where I see the justification.
There's also a lot of Warrior Lodge stuff that kind of just floats into the World Eaters pretty easily because they're Warrior Lodges, and that's kind of their whole big thing. Angron to me is just one of the saddest characters. Like, he never really gets a chance. And I think that's the thing that sucks.
He would heal people's wounds. He had that ability to take the pain for others.
Yeah.
And he was essentially a paladin. Because I always take shit to fantasy. He was a paladin.
Yeah. But all of that stuff, like, he doesn't do that. The stuff on Nasira doesn't go well, and like it all falls apart. It all comes unhinged. That's why he's my number one. All right, so where is he on your guys' scales? And remember what you've already chosen.
I wrote them on my hand.
What's up?
I wrote them on my hands.
God,
I don't know if you can see it, but like
Nice.
I just needed to write them down. I have Angron on my third for the bronze medal. Partly because he is a tragic character, but in my eyes, he was written to fall from the beginning.
Yeah, he definitely was.
And there's been some great writing. I just haven't read it myself. So by the time I do read it myself, my opinions might change. But yeah, that's where he sits right now.
He's in first place for me because he's a person who wanted to help and protect others, and he got pulled down into some of the most terrible thing. And honestly, I see this as a great allegory for like an addiction. As his brain begins to be remapped, rewritten for this foreign substance that's constantly, in this case, literally pumping into his brain. Fun fact, Istvan 3 had the highest amount of loyalists from the World Eaters. There was the most World Eaters were the highest ones
Yeah.
to be killed there because
More World Eaters died.
Yeah, because of how Angron was, how terrible he was. Compare where he was at the very beginning. Literally Spartacus, now turned into this murder machine who can only feel comfort. Just his head quiets the second he's killing someone.
Yeah.
That's why he's in my number 1 spot, from how great the fall was.
And it's kind of described as like the worst migraine, the worst muscle cramps, the worst like cold all at once. I can't remember the book that it's like described in detail. I think it might actually be in the first wall because it's Khorne. It's not Angron. It's Khorne that's going through it. But it's basically like Khorne's vision is turning red at the edges because of the amount of pain in his like head, and he's having a hard
biting
time
on his tongue to make something happen.
Yeah, and he's having a hard time like standing for the amount of pain like racking his body because of the butcher's nails, and like he realizes I need to make tactical decisions. This is a battle that needs tactics. So he's pulling himself out of it. The other thing that I really love about the way that the World Eaters are described in the first wall is they've got the kill count in their visor. I imagine that they map them together, so like you can just you can hit tab and see your kill to death rate.
I just imagine it's like Latara up in the thing has a Google spreadsheet open.
Right. I also think she's fucking badass. The fact that she can like, as a mortal, can command respect from these fucking murder machines.
It's like those people who like when a bear charges them, they just stand there and the bear walks away kind of embarrassed.
Right. So you mean if you asked Latara if she wanted to be in the woods with a man or a bear, she'd say Primarch?
She'd say Primarch. That Primarch be cooking weenies for her.
Primarch. Demon.
So last up, we do have a couple of honorable mentions, but last up is Mortarion, the Demon Primarch of Nurgle. And this is the one that you guys both said you know the least about.
I knew the least about
Angron?
No, I was about to say Sanguinius, Fulgrim.
Fulgrim. Okay. Minion? Is Mortarion one of the ones you know the least about?
I know a little more about Mortarion than I do Angron, considering that I have 9,000 points of Death Guard.
Oh yeah, you're a Death Guard player, right?
Yeah. I really enjoy the story of Fulgrim and Magnus more, but I liked the Legion of the Death Guard more than the Thousand Sons and Emperor's Children.
Yeah, we have an entire fan army that we made about the card.
Yeah.
Mortarion was always dead set against psychic powers, even to the point of speaking out against Magnus at the Council of Nicaea. Mortarion is kind of the outlier in the 4 big demon primarchs. Everyone else has kind of had a little bit of a psychic thing. Mortarion is the like, fuck sorcery. I hate it. Get it out of my face. Mortarion had always felt closer and more comfortable with Horus, and at the time of the Heresy, it didn't take much to bring Mortarion to the War Master's side. He basically felt kind of isolated and alone, and the only person that he could really like interface with was Horus. The Death Guard Primarch had resented the Emperor for years over being denied his vengeance against the High Overlord, Naker, this is why I got fucked up, of Barbarous. Not Barbosa. Barbosa's a different place with rum.
He's a good pirate.
Horus had continued to stoke these fires by revealing that the Emperor had used warp powers to make the Primarchs themselves. And, just kind of how we mentioned a couple of times, he really hated sorcery. So not only is Horus going, hey, you should have gotten your vengeance, but he's also going, hey, do you know that you were made with warp powers? Like the thing that Dad says we're not supposed to do, the thing that Dad led you to not like. Yeah, you were made with it, buddy. Like Dad betrayed you before you were even born. How do you feel about that? And you just see Mortarion kind of being the petty little bitch that he is, being like, I fucking hate it. No, I hate it. I hate it, man.
It's
Imagining
not good,
he's
man.
typing on his phone in his diary and has dashboard confessional stickers on the case.
Writing in his life journal.
Yeah.
Can you fucking believe this shit that my dad did? Completely on the side, First Captain Callus Typhon, Mortarion's second in command, had long been a secret follower of the Ruinous Powers as part of the Warrior Lodges and had been manipulating the rest of the Death Guard kind of slowly behind the scenes. So Typhon was one of the like early Erebus Logar projects. So, we talk about the word bearers going traitor like 40 years before the Heresy, there were Marines in other legions, also part of the warrior lodges, that were right there alongside them. Typhon is one of these guys. Mortarion showed his new allegiance eagerly when he ordered all of his loyalist forces directly into the teeth of Horus's trap on Ishtvan III. So as to where more World Eaters died, the Death Guard loyalists literally got sent into the worst position. They got sent against the tanks, which, like, not good.
Yeah.
Not good. It's a shitty place to be.
Yeah.
The Primarch of the Death Guard was the last to achieve apotheosis during the Heresy and the last to align themselves to a specific god. In an event we'll cover soon, Mortarion sparred off and on again with Jagatai of the White Scars, trying to get them to come to Horus' side as much as he was also attempting to get vengeance for some of these past slights. Morty, again, I don't mean to make it a meme, but he's like the pettiest of the Primarchs. He's so petty sometimes. He had Mortarion had the Book of Grudges. Like, if anybody had a Book of Grudges, it was Mortarion.
He was second to petty Turbo Man.
Yeah. Perturabo is all. Yeah, I'll give you that. I think you're right. I think Perturabo is the more petty one, but Mortarion's a really close second.
Mortarion, he vocalized it way more than him, though.
Oh yeah, 100%. In Scars, they show the clip. It's not a video. The portion of Jagatai, Fulgrim, and Mortarion just talking shit with each other over duels and like whatnot. And then later in the book, it covers that duel of Mortarion and Jagatai, and Mortarion's talking shit the entire fight, and he's like half getting his ass kicked.
And it's really funny because the original conversation between the three Primarchs is happening when a couple of White Scars are dueling. And one of the things that Jagatai is saying during that conversation is how the Terran-born White Scars aren't that good. And then it's a Terran-born White Scar versus a... Oh, fuck, I can't remember the name of their planet.
Colchis?
No, that's the word bears. But it's really close to Colchis.
Chigoran? Chigoris?
Yeah. Chigoris. Yeah, Chigoris.
Yeah.
Against a Chigoris-born. And like right as Mortarion says something, or not right as Mortarion, right as Jagatai says something about how like a Terran-born will never beat a Chikaran-born, he gets beaten. The Terran-born wins. Yeah. And like it's just one of those like funny. And Jagatai doesn't do the like thing that unfortunately, most of the other Primarchs do, where they're like, fuck that guy. He's like, oh, glad I got proven wrong. Jagatai is probably the only Primarch. Jagatai and Vulcan are probably the only Primarchs that actually kind of respect the Terran-born ones. The Terran-born ones end up being around for a long time. They don't get murdered mercilessly.
Yeah, Jagatai's a very humble character. That's probably why I like him the most.
Yeah, I mean the White Scars are my boys, so yeah.
Yeah. Don't worry, the Salamander ones got murdered mercilessly, just by other legions.
Yeah, the Salamanders, all the Shattered Legions.
R.I.P.
When it came time to move on Terra and start the siege, Typhon, now firmly a loyal servant to Nurgle, purged all of the navigators of Mortarion's fleet, claiming they had all been loyalists. If you guys remember just last episode, in Darkness on the Horizon Part 2, we talked about how Typhon thought that he had failed Nurgle.
It's a sign to stop shit talking their god.
No shit, right? And I cough as I'm talking about Nurgle. He got his third blister.
Oh.
Ooh, the third blister.
It's the juiciest.
Yeah. Because Mortarion hated Psykers so much, the Death Guard had never had a Librarius, and there had never really been powerful Psykers in the Death Guard. However, Typhon was a powerful Psyker now, and he basically was the only person who could safely deliver the fleet through the warp to Terra. And Mortarion absolutely fucking hated this. But as there was pretty much no other way to do it, Mortarion was like, I fucking guess you're in charge. And this was exactly where Typhon wanted him. This was the plot. This was the hook, line, and sinker that Typhon had set up. And the entire Death Guard fleet gets stranded in the warp. This is bad. Being becalmed in the warp is not what you want. Your ships are not moving. And essentially, Grandfather Nurgle's influences just begin to creep into the ships. They begin to take hold. And they do this through the Destroyer Plague and Nurgle's Rot, which are just spreading unchecked among the Death Guard. And to be completely open with this, and we'll cover it in more detail when we get to this part of the Heresy, but the Destroyer Plague and Nurgle's Rot really fuck up and kill people all the time. However, this is not killing them. It is just leaving them in massive amounts of pain, and the cycle is just continuing and continuing and continuing and continuing. They're never getting the sweet release of death. The fever's never breaking, or it's breaking just long enough to start over again. So these plagues are not killing the way they kill most. They're just constantly fucking these guys in a cycle of just the worst. We just talked about the worst pain ever being the butcher's nails, but again, the worst pain that you could deal with.
Oh, hey, look
40k
at
is
that.
really good at that. There's a
Yeah.
Mortarion there on screen, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a Mortarion.
Eventually, Mortarion succumbs to the temptation and the need for relief. The Primarch of the Death Guard having suffered the worst. Because he's a Primarch, he can be pushed a little bit further before the cycle returns and repeats itself. Feeling like he was back on Barbarous and left high in the poisonous clouds, knowing that all around him, his sons were suffering just the same. When he finally pledged himself and his legion to Nurgle, the Dark God laughed gleefully, and Mortarion's apotheosis to Daemon Primarch was complete. What emerged from the warp bore little resemblance to what had entered it. The Death Guard Space Marines' once gleaming gray armor was corroded and shattered, barely containing their bloated, pustulant-ridden bodies. The energies of chaos powered their weapons and armor, and they were now firmly Plague Marines. They're the last, but the fastest to convert, I feel. Like for them, and they're stuck in the warp for a time. It's not like 2 minutes. It's a chunk of change. But still, like the Emperor's children are kind of slowly decaying. The World Eater, I almost said the Angronites. The World Eaters are
Fuck, that
slowly
sounds
succumbing,
awesome.
right? That would be a great fucking army, the Angronites. And the Thousand Sons. I guess the Thousand Sons, no, the Thousand Sons are like corrupted without knowing it, I
Yeah.
think is the
It's
way
like
to kind
frog
of
in
look at
boiling
that.
water.
Yes. Yeah. It's happened for so long. But Mortarion's crew, like they go in shiny new Space Marines and they literally pop out the other side Plague Marines. Like the ones that exist today. That's how they come out. Mortarion is one of the least covered Primarchs to date. We've talked about him the least in any of our Horus Heresy coverage. We have talked about Typhon a little bit. By the way, for those of you wondering, Typhon and Typhus are the same person. It's just what he's called in the Heresy and what he's called now in 40k. Because of the fact that we haven't covered Mortarion a lot, and because of kind of the way that his story is written, we will be kind of taking a little bit of time to go back and cover what he's been up to since the Ishtvan 3 conflict in the next couple of episodes. But just like our last three boys, it's time to jump into what are the inconsistencies with how he was written in the Horus Heresy. And
He's a shit talker, but he
He is a
doesn't
shit
earn it.
talker.
But he acts like he earns it. And I don't know if that's just his persona or if that's just a poor writing, because it's like, oh man, I wonder what it'd be like to duel you, Jagatai. Because, you know, you've never fought a scythe wielder. And then he's like, oh, poor me. Oh, poor me. But I'm so mysterious and cool. It's like that little kid, like the youngest child, trying to get a little attention from the four other kids.
The edgiest of edgelords.
Yes.
Yeah.
He listens to Evanescence on loop, unironically. Yeah.
I think
Pierce the veil. Yeah.
I think
yes.
it pierced the veil. Jesus Christ. I think part of it too is that Mortarion is, I think because Typhon becomes such an integral part to the way that their legion falls, I think that Mortarion doesn't get a lot of focus in the Heresy. He gets a lot of focus in his own stories, but a lot of the Heresy stuff really focuses on Typhon, which makes sense because Typhon, a lot like Abaddon, is like kind of the main, he's one of the main, Typhus is one of the main dudes nowadays.
Yeah. Just to clarify, Callus Typhon does change his name to Typhus. He did pay the $50 fee with the warp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Typhus in 40k and Typhon in 30k are the same person. Like
Same guy,
it's just a name change. Yeah.
There's a lot more bugs on his back in 40k.
Yeah. Yeah. I also, and maybe this is a question for you, Minion. Are the Death Guard as plagued with warrior cults as everything else, or is it literally just Typhon?
I remember, I don't know if there's any other Death Guard focus books other than the Flight of the Eisenstein. I haven't dug too far into the Heresy.
Which focuses on the Knights Errant and kind of like the good guy. Like,
Yeah,
and that's the other
it's
thing. A lot of the Death Guard stuff kind of focuses on Black Shields, loyalist Black Shields.
yeah. The Flight of the Eisenstein is Nathaniel Garrow prior to him even starting there's him figuring out there's the warp and demons and like his story. But he was captain of the 7th company of the Death Guard, and
Yeah.
there's a confrontation in like prior to them dropping onto Isvan 3 where he's confronting some of his troops because they were discussing warrior lodges, and he wanted no part of it in his company.
Yeah, they take him to a lodge meeting.
Yeah, he gives his reasons, and it's like they had, I think the lodges were a minor part in the Death Guard. They weren't as prevalent as the Word Bearers or the Sons of Horus. That's just what I remember. It's been a while since I've listened to the book, but yeah.
I was thinking it might have been a bit prevalent due to the fact that, at least in 9th edition, they had all these different plague companies of legions, and they all seemed very distinct, especially with the way they were named and everything. I was wondering, was there already that cultural severance that would a warrior lodge, cultivate before they became, diseased?
I don't think there was that much in the Death Guard. And that the Death Guard are kind of like the no-nonsense stoic ones in a lot of ways. Mortarion notwithstanding, because he's kind of he is stoic and like really centered and really focused, but he's also just a boisterous. You're right. He is a very boisterous little bitch.
Yeah.
And like even after he's turned my favorite one of my we're coming back to the first one. No, I think this is in Santorini, but we're coming back to the Siege of Terra. There's a moment where he has to work to Magnus's side. Magnus and Mortarion meet on Terra to discuss like some tactics stuff, and Mortarion like walks out of the shadows and was like, "Brother, speak fast or I'll fucking kill you." Like, and Magnus is like, "Really? Now? As we're trying to win this war, this is when you're gonna do this fight?" And Mortarion's like, "What a better time for me to end your pathetic little life." And Magnus is like, I'm done with this conversation," and just like teleports him like 200 yards away. He's like, "You fucking idiot. Really? We're gonna have this fight right now? Like, Horus gave us a job and he's gonna kill us both, and you're pulling this shit?" Like,
I think Mortarion also fell to the leg of being passed around between so many writers, because the way he acted in Flight of the Eisenstein with his interactions with Nathaniel Garrow are completely different to the edgelord he is towards the end of the Heresy. And
I think some of that
sucks.
Yeah, I think some of that though too is just like the evolution of his character, because by like 30k, Mortarion is not the type of did I say 30k? By 40k, Mortarion is not really the type of Demon Primarch that you expect, like giving grandiose like villain monologues on the field.
Yeah.
Mortarion shows up, doesn't say anything, a bunch of people die, and he leaves. Like, I mean, Angron is giving a TED Talk too. I realize the TED Talk is the entire time, but he's giving a TED Talk. Fulgrim is full on villain monologuing for like 2 hours about nothing.
It's great.
It's
great when Dorn's listening.
And I feel like Magnus is giving the professor speech. Like, you realize that evil is just a point of view. Like Magnus does that in 40k.
No,
I feel like
no. He's going around. He's doing math equations. He goes, "Listen, bitch. Y equals mx plus b. Find the slope of your downfall as I kick your ass."
Right. But I feel like they all kind of talk except Mortarion. I feel like Mortarion in 40k is like a force of nature. And I wonder if that's part of it. Like, as he continued on, he had to become unhinged to become what he is now.
You sly dog, works. You caught me monologuing again.
You sly dog. It reminds me so going back to the Old Testament, talking about, when they had the plague wash across, and how it's just this sweeping silence that took all these souls. That's just what it makes me think back to, that just this sweeping plague that wreaks havoc on a battlefield. no noise being made, no chants, no glory. It's just the deafening silence of death.
Yeah. And I feel like that was probably a better way to categorize Mortarion even in 30k as a loyalist. Like, I mean, I guess we have to have reasons that he opposes his brothers. We've got to have a little bit of inner turmoil to kind of set up why he fell, but it's weird. I think Mortarion, I agree with you. I think Mortarion got a little bit of the like rewrite stuff. And we'll cover all of these guys. We'll cover all the Primarchs in more detail. However, before we get off the train of Demon Primarchs, you guys will probably be wondering why we haven't brought up Logar and Perturabo.
Because we need to rank Mortarion.
What's that? Oh, Mortarion is my second most tragic.
He's third for me because he died to man flu.
I have him at number 4.
Okay.
Yeah, and I won't go into detail.
No, I want to know.
He, in my opinion, he's also written to fall, and I really liked his character in The Flight of the Eisenstein. And even when I was getting into 40k and looking at the past and his motifs of the Grim Reaper, like you guys said, the silence sweeping across the battlefield as the Death Guard went to work, it's not really present anymore, and it's more of he's just edgelord, kinda. But the true edgelord goes to Conrad Kurz for sure.
Oh yeah,
literally.
Conrad. Conrad is Conrad and Corvus, the two edgelords.
Yeah.
So I put him at number 2 before we get to Logar and Perturabo. I put him at number 2 because the whole idea of just like slowly dying of essentially like your lungs filling with pus over and over and over again until you give up is awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, man flu.
Man flu. Like, dude gets waterboarded to the point where he gives up, and he's a Primarch, and he's getting waterboarded by his own fucking lung. Like, it's awful.
Yeah.
And knowing that it's happening to everybody around you, and knowing that there's no way you can fight against it. And I'm assuming Typhon is just like walking around like, doop, 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 I'm going to go get some tea. Cause like none of it's affecting him. He's probably like, you have a stomach ache, and like punches a dude and walks off. I imagine Typhon is like not like kind of a dick. I mean, like, as much as he seems really reasonable, because he's in a lot of sit-down conversations with Primarchs up until the Siege of Terra, like Typhon just also kind of strikes me as an absolute cunt. Like, just the way I imagine he acts.
In all my years of knowing you, I think that's the first time I've heard you say cunt, and it makes me so happy.
I go back and listen to the episodes. I'm sure I said it before. There is a reason our podcast is marked E for everybody.
We're handing cunts to children. Everyone gets it.
So why are you putting him in your number 1 spot? Ick, I'm sorry. Did you give him
third.
number 1? He's your third. Okay, why is he in your number 3 spot?
Because he died to man flu, and that's a little bit worse than someone losing because they think they are the hype, which is why Fulgrim was number 4. He's literally Vegeta going, I am the hype! And he wasn't the hype.
He was not the hype at all. All right. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you guys off, but back where we were, if you guys are wondering why I didn't bring up Logar and Perturabo, both of those guys are Demon Primarchs of Chaos Undivided. However, both of them achieved this in events that happened during the Scouring after the Horus Heresy. Don't worry. We will talk about their transformations in the future, but we wanted to get into the Primarchs that fell during the Horus Heresy, because as you may have noticed, we are smashing this episode into one of our series on the Horus Heresy.
Heresy.
There's a few other Traitor Primarchs that we didn't mention. They didn't become demons, and we'll get into their fates as we continue with our coverage of the Horus Heresy. As teased earlier, next we will continue with our Darkness on the Horizon series, covering more of the Shadow Crusade and touching on Angron's apotheosis on Nucera. That word. New metal. Nuceria, thank you.
Yeah.
Apotheosis, by the way, is like my favorite new 10-cent word that I've learned.
Is that your hyperfixation word?
It's my hyperfixation word. Ever since we've been doing the Horus Heresy stuff, apotheosis is literally like the process of becoming a demon. Like that's what the word means. It's like one of my other favorite like hyperfixation 10-cent words is defenestrate, which is literally throwing somebody out of a window. Which I'm
It's
like,
such a good
why
word.
is
Finish
there a
straight.
word for this very like specific thing?
I don't have a normal hyperfixation word. I have a 40k hyperfixation word because it's only for there, and it's just anathema. I fucking love that word.
Anathema.
Or
Yeah.
anathema.
Anathane. So an anathane is a type of ritualistic dagger, or do you mean?
No, I'm just saying anathema, but but you know, with the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Yeah, so an anathema paragon is like a paragon of virtue, an anathema
Yeah.
of evil. That
Yeah,
is
the way they use
yeah.
anathema in 40k as a motif, I fucking love. So when I see it, I'm like,
Yeah.
big meanings.
They do use it really
the person that's pretty much tied into the machine spirit for I forget what Horus's ship is in the book Black Legion. Isn't that also
Vengeful
called the
spirit.
anathema? Yeah, I forget what it is, but I'm
So-
pretty sure they use the name anathema for the name of that person.
They might. They also have the anathane on the vengeful spirit, the
Yeah.
blade that Erebus pierces Horus with. I don't know
Yeah.
why. It's in the apothecaria. I would imagine like you would throw that away, but apparently they don't because
Throw that the airlock, yeah.
right? Blow that shit out the fucking airlock. So if you guys want to get into contact with us about this episode or the show itself, you can do that by reaching out through email at underthehiveofmadness@gmail.com. You can also find us, and by us, I mean myself and my two guests on Discord, and join conversations about existing lore, world building, gaming, and a lot more. We also have a Facebook page, we Instagram, and we release some content over on TikTok. So check out all of those things. If you are a little bit more old school, we also have a website, underthehiveofmadness.com, and I swear one day I will actually finish updating it. We also have a link tree that will give you all sorts of links so you can keep up with everybody in the normal cast's hobby progress. Plus, my guests today will provide me with their links so I can put those in our show notes as well. Ickbard, how can people get into contact with you? What are some of your projects?
For asking. So, projects I'm working on, besides speaking over Ryan because I don't know what cues are, I have my own YouTube channel. It's Ickbard. That's where I am nowadays, not the other place. The other place we don't talk about. It's not a good place. It's a place of high. What's the Star Wars quote? Hive of scum and villainy.
I don't know
Thank
what he's
you.
talking about, but
Yeah, so
we're gonna
Tatooine.
find links to the place of Skyman and villainy. We're gonna
the
lemon
Skyman
party.
villainy. Oh man,
The
let's make
Skyman
Skyman
villainy.
things like fetch. So I'm on YouTube. My name is Ickbard. I am starting a new Warhammer series. Warhammer is based off of the real world, so I like to go over what are the similarities from our parallels with 40k in the real world, because they're not that far different. It is called Ordo Historia. We have our first episode out already. I say we. I have my first episode out. It is about how the Unification War and World War I are eerily similar, especially when we look at the scope and scale of the combat. And a little teaser for episode 2, I'm talking about how Mormonism was used to conquer the Imperium and how bolters are a psyop.
I love it. I fucking love when you do the Scientology episode. Can I be on it?
Ooh,
Yes,
yeah, I
you
wanna
will
be
be on it. And also, you can find me co-hosting a stream with Revan's Handicrafts on YouTube. Revan's Handicrafts, he streams 3 times a week normally on the evenings, Eastern Standard Time. You also see me there guest starring in a few of his videos there. So give him some love. Just hit 7,000 subscribers.
Yeah, and we should have some links to that stuff down in the not down. I always say down like this is a YouTube video. We have links to that stuff in the show notes. Minion, how can people connect with you online?
Other than in the Discord, my name's just Micah in there. You can find me on Instagram at Rowboat Hobbies. It's spelled ROE boat.hobbies. It's a play on my name, so if I remember to post on it.
Link should be in the show notes. If you'd like to help the podcast grow, you can do that by liking and reviewing us wherever you get your podcast fix. Our home is right here on Spotify, but you can find us on Audible, Apple Podcasts, Castbox, iHeartRadio, Radio Public, and a couple of other places. Please, please, please take a moment to go to Apple and write us a review if you haven't already. Go over to Spotify and give us a 5-star rating because we know you love the show. Those help us out as much as possible. I know I mentioned it a couple of times, but there will be links and spellings for everything in the show notes. Support us through Patreon at www.patreon.com under the Hive of Madness. You can join a fantastic crew of hivers over there. for access to extra content and a chance to snag some cool merch in our monthly giveaways.
This ain't your mama's Hivecast.
Bexy's Flackenjack, your number one source for all beings that gyrate and jiggle in the Underhive. Pull up a chair and enjoy Bexy's all-you-can-eat rat burger and fried sump crust fish buffet. Only 5 credits after 4th shift all month long. And you can wash that down with 2 cred bottles of 2 nobblers and a Coke. We are the rabble-rousing rebels your parents always warned you about. The last beacon of truth on the Pirate Voxwave, 665.66 UHMR Chemrat Radio. Reminding all of you Chemrats, Hive Mice, and Sump Ghoulies to keep those dials fixed. Right here, same ratty frequency for a dose of the same ratty-ass attitude.
In the forest those depths, where ice blue shadows creep, beware the four-armed emperors which stalk the deep. Don't stray from the light to let them find you alone. For once trapped by their grasp, not a soul shall return home.
Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah. Yeah, oh yeah. Remember,
Oh, yeah.
read a motherfucking book.
It's Spain with your squigglins.
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 I've been doing that every time I've been on the podcast after the first one.
It's a great fucking sign off. All right, guys, have a good night.
God bless.